Hey guys, how are you tonight? My name is Alan Thomas, and I have Rethink Dieting for Men, where I help men overcome the weight that holds them back from living the future they're designed to live. And I've got kind of a provocative topic tonight that I'll probably get some unhappy mail, you might call it, for posting this. But this has been on my heart for a while, and you know I the thought of gluttony, that word, and morbid obesity, just in laziness, all in the same sentence, it really rubs, a person who is overweight wrong. And it rubs them wrong for a big reason. It's when I weighed, and a little history on me, if you guys don't know much about me, in 2017, on March 2nd, I stepped on the scale in my bathroom early one morning, and I looked down and I saw 304 pounds staring back at me. Now, I've told this story 1,000 times, but I keep on telling it because it's what happened to me. I stepped on that scale, and when I saw that, I was 55 years old, and I realized at the time I'd never met a man that was 65 that weighed over 100 pounds, was over 100 pounds overweight. Now, I'm sure they're out there. I've met a few, but they're rare. And the reason they're rare is because most men just don't make it if they're morbidly obese. And, I had to face that. And as I was standing there on that scale, when I looked down, it was like, I had this moment of epiphany where I realized that, if I didn't do something about it, I had less than 10 years to live. And, I have and had at the time and have a beautiful wife. She and I have been married 31 years. We've been married 34 years now. And I realized the likelihood of me being dead and her remarrying down the road somewhat time, after a respectful amount of time, some good looking, trim fit guy would swoop in, and he would be in my place. I'd be a picture on the wall of the first husband. I'd be known as the first husband because I would be dead. And I realized that my children, and who at the time were from 15 up to 27 years old, I have four kids, three boys and a daughter. I realized that those kids would be calling somebody else dad. I would be a memory. And what made it hard to accept too was the fact that I made the choice. It was my choice. I would say all the time, I can't stick to anything. I would try diet after diet after diet after diet. And there was nothing that I could ever stick to. It was always, just it beat me. And I was always looking for the perfect diet. I would try those things where they give you shots. I would try those things where you went to the doctor and just had liquids. I tried, the juice fasting. I tried eating all protein, eating all carbohydrates, doing the vinegar diet, doing all, on and on and on. I'd done every one of them that I could find. I'm sure there are lots and lots of diets I didn't do, but I tried every one of them that I had, and most of them multiple times, only to fail. And I realized that weight that I was carrying, that extra 100+ pounds that I had on my body, was literally stealing my life, not just my life physically. That was a small part. It was stealing my life that I was really destined to live. There was something inside of me. There was a song inside of me and I say that sounds kind of corny when I hear myself say it, but there was something inside of me that had to come out. And it would never come out as long as I was morbidly obese. And when I think of morbid obesity, it's such an ugly term. And when I was 304 pounds, that's the last term I wanted to be called, was morbidly obese. But it was just a statistic. And I could say that the BMI, body mass index charts, that a lot of people argue with, and I don't think they're 100% right either. But come on, I was a 42.4 BMI. And so I was overweight. I couldn't deny that. I used to think I could put clothes, these dark colored suits and different things on it to hide the obesity. And I really hadn't planned to do this, but I want to show you something while I'm talking. And, so I had this vision of myself that I would one day lose the weight. I would one day get the weight off. One day was always the day that was coming. And I would, it was always going to be this one day that I would get the weight off. And it just drove me crazy because nothing worked. I couldn't stick to anything for a long period of time. And I thought I could hide it. But you tell me, this picture was taken on March 11th. It was taken, or 10th or 11th of 2017. It was about a week and a half after I weighed 304. You tell me, does that suit make me look thin? At the time, I thought it did. It's a 54. I think it was a 54 regular heart shafter mark suit, and I thought it made me look thin, because maybe it made me look a little bit thinner. But really, was that guy, anything other than morbidly obese? And I don't say this to shame you if you're overweight. I believe God loved me at that size. I believe he loves you at your size, but I also believe you got to face reality. And I did. And the reality that I was facing was, it was literally stealing my life. And I was in this prison of obesity, and I'd failed and failed and failed. And I went on this journey that I'll tell you about in a minute. But the fact that I was morbidly obese was evidence. It was ironclad evidence that I was a glutton. And people say, well, how could you say that about yourself? Because I was. It's ironclad evidence. I was a 304 pound, 5'11" man. It is ironclad evidence that I was a glutton. And I mean, people say, well, that's such an ugly term. Well, sure it is. Well, 304 pounds is an ugly number. And I don't say this to shame anybody else. I'm talking about myself. This was me, the realization I had. It was ironclad evidence. And in Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs 23, God talks about gluttons. And I'm not here to preach to you. If I preach to you, I will take an offering, and you don't want me to do that. So, but he talks about gluttons, and it's not a pleasant thing. He talks about laziness. Now, I was a hardworking guy. I got up every day and went to work. But you tell me, you carry around 100-pound sack of potatoes on your shoulder all day long, from the time you get out of bed the first thing in the morning to the time you go to bed at night. And you tell me if you don't feel tired. Now, I know that's something that, so the laziness that God talks about is just a natural side effect of the gluttony that's evidenced by my morbid obesity. And I talk to men every day who are struggling with their weight. They're struggling with their, the fact that they've got all this size. And, when I was, the night of this picture, I guarantee you that I got on an elevator that night. We were at a convention. It was an insurance convention. I was working in the burial insurance industry, had been for years and years. And that's where I had the reference to the people that were 65 years old. I've sat in thousands, and that's my dog. He's very opinionated, so he's right outside my window. But the evidence of me being there, I would joke about my weight. I would joke about it all the time, and to the point that I didn't even realize it. My wife Angie, who's beside me in that picture, she said to me after I started losing, she said, Alan, you embarrassed me so bad because you would joke about your size. She would never say morbid obesity because it's such an ugly term, but it was reality. It's like, the sky is blue. I was morbidly obese. You can't deny it. And so, but I'd get on this elevator and I'd start making jokes, and I didn't even remember them. I had no memory of it. But I would make jokes all the time. I was the funny fat guy. But I was dying inside because I knew that I was capable of more, and I couldn't figure it out. This equation, it was like figuring out the lock, picking a lock and trying to figure out what's the code. There's 4 or 5 numbers, and I couldn't get the exact number. I'd lose weight for a month or two, or maybe a week or two, and then I gained it all back. And it was just over and over. I suffered and suffered and suffered, but it was on my own self-inflicted suffering. And so, I was clearly a glutton, and I was clearly going to be lazy, because there's no way you don't have less energy when you're carrying over 100 pounds. Did it make me a bad person? No. But did it make me irresponsible? Hell yes. Excuse my language. Yes. Yes, I was. But am I glad that I was 304 pounds today? I am glad. People say, how could you be glad about being that fat? And the reason I'm glad that I was because it gave me a perspective that I would have never had. I would have never had the perspective that I've got today when I talk to a man who's 100+ pounds overweight. And I know the pain that he's in. I know it better than he knows it a lot of times. I know how ashamed I was when I would take off my shirt in front of my wife. I knew how ashamed I was when I, walked into a room and people would say, "Oh my God, he's so big." And when I had to look at a kitchen table when I was going into someone's home to help them with their insurance, and they were wondering if I couldn't take care of my personal, discipline with food, how could I possibly handle their life insurance? And so people would, these things that they would ask themselves, they wouldn't say them out loud, but I know they were asking them, and it wasn't me imagining it either. I promise you, when I weighed over 100 pounds overweight, people were talking. They're like, "Oh my God, you see how big Alan is?" And it was embarrassing. And it was going into a clothing store and going to the one rack that had, a few things on it and walking by all the normal people's clothes. And what was the hardest part is that I knew it was possible to lose weight, but I just couldn't do it. And I struggled. And then that day hit where I got the final number to the combination. And I went on this journey, and I actually did it publicly, where in 260 days, I lost 129 pounds. And this woman right here, Angie, my wife, who is in the other room right now as you speak, we've been married 34 years now. She was waiting on me to lead. She was waiting on me to lead. And I don't say, well, Angie's a very capable lady. She's very, but she was looking for a guy that would lead. And what was interesting was, while she didn't struggle to the level I did with my weight, what happened with her was, well, here, I'll show you this picture. That's pretty cool. And let me see. I don't know if you can see that. So she goes there. That's how she looks today. And so she was waiting on me to lead. Who knew? And then we ended up doing that together. And again, I'm not saying this to boast to you. I'm saying it to impress upon you that it was always possible. This is her like 4-5 months later, after she decided to go on the journey, because I decided to lead. And I just decided I was defiantly committed to hitting my weight. And I don't say this to brag, because I should have never been 304 pounds. I should have been at a normal weight my whole life. And I shouldn't have been, my kids would never say it. But I found out after I lost my weight, that they were embarrassed of me. They were embarrassed to bring friends over. They were wondering, one of my sons said to my wife, "I guess Dad just doesn't love us enough to really lose weight." And it was the most selfish thing that I've ever done in my life. Am I glad I was there? Yes, but I'm on the other side of it now. And in 260 days was standing in between me and a normal, healthy, ideal weight. It was crazy. I mean, all those years, decades and decades and decades and decades of fighting the scale, of fighting it over and over and over again. And I could have always done it, but I never did. And so I had to learn some things, but today, I'm a normal weight. And, what's fun to me is when I see what's possible on the other side. And the men that I work with in my Rethink Dieting program, when they figure out that they've got control over their weight, when they walk through a process that I put them through. And by the way, I never tell anybody what to eat or what exercise to do. The people say, "Well, what diet are you going to use?" I'll say, the one that you'll stick to. And it's like, "You mean you're not going to tell me what to eat?" I said, "No, that's not the problem. If it was, you would have already lost the weight." The diet industry is $72 billion industry in the United States of America, and 40 million men are obese. 40 million. That doesn't even count the ladies. There's more ladies that are obese than men, and the number's growing. So is the diet industry working? No. If it were, the numbers would be going down. We'd all be thinner. And so what happens is that people get caught up in this diet. Really a friend of mine used for a different term, but I would call it the dieter's circle of insanity. I was in it for so long. I would try diet after diet after diet. Oh, that didn't work. That didn't work. And it was always me. It was always me. And it was always within my capability to do it. And so what I learned on that journey, that 260-day journey, led me to this point in my life where I'm able to help other people with it. And so it's amazing when you hear these guys that they become the hero of their own story. and they figure out they got it figured out, and they can get the weight off if they choose to. And that, that a particular diet, do they have to change what they eat? Of course they do. Do they have to move their body some? Well, it'll sure help. But it was that ever just the answer? That was the 10% or the 2% part of the equation. The 90% or the 98% part is right here. It was right here. It was figuring out how to rethink the process. And it was always simple. And we know it in our heart. I knew it in my heart. I knew it was simple, but I just couldn't do it. And then when I figured out the keys and the steps, it just worked, and it started working, and it worked every time. Is it, and people, did I want all my weight off in 30 days? Yeah. But it was crazy. 129 pounds in 260 days is pretty fast. Does it take longer for some people? Sure. The people, if you do the process, it works. And, I say this to not be condescending to anybody, because I know the struggle, but just wake up, men, wake up to the fact that this problem is not going to go away on its own. You have not fixed it yet. If you've been worried about, and you've tried diet after diet, the solution may be right in front of you. And if you want to have an honest conversation, book a call with me. Go to transformmyfuture.com/apply and take you to my calendar page. You can book a free call. The call's totally free. And we'll look at mapping out a strategy to help you reach your ideal weight and have an honest conversation if you're really ready. I get a lot of people I talk to that aren't ready. And that's fine. They're stuck in their story of being 300 or 400 pounds or 200 something pounds or whatever the story is, and they just don't believe it's ready. It's not worth giving up that next bite of food. And I've been there. I know how that is. But I can tell you the other side's way better. And I can tell you when you want to get out of bed, and when you want to move, and when you slide on a pair of 32 or 34 trousers, and you step into a meeting, when a meeting is, you used to go in and say, are they looking at me because of my weight? And you walk in there in your power, and in how that feels, and when your income starts to go up because you haven't got that monkey on your back like you had for years and years with all the obesity, and you realize you finally did it. And it's amazing to see the transformations. It's amazing, but the transformation's got to start here. It doesn't start with the next bite of food, but you have to change it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist, dietitian, or physical fitness expert, but I can tell you, I know the freaking way out of obesity. I do. And, if you want to check out my YouTube channel, go to Rethink Dieting on YouTube. You can look it up. Got, 70, 80, 90 videos you can watch and see a little bit more, maybe pick up some ideas there. You can also watch a free masterclass that I did called Rethink Dieting at rethinkdieting.com. And I've got those links in this post. And in that video, in that it's actually a 48-minute training, it'll explain a lot of the steps that I went through to drop my 129 pounds. But if you're just about hopeless, be encouraged. You can get the weight off. And if I can do it, I believe anybody can. I mean, I just do. Now, is that a guarantee? Is it hard work? Of course, do. Does some people not want it bad enough to where they'll do what's necessary? Yeah, there are lots of those people. Lots of them. It is about being defiantly committed to reaching your ideal weight, so you can live out that life that is possible. Because those pounds are stealing from you more than you will ever know. The cost of being morbidly obese, the cost of being obese, the cost of just being overweight is a high price. And I'm not just talking about in health. I'm talking about in your business, in your relationships, in your church. I mean, I talk to men in ministry, and to think that if you're standing up there in front of a congregation and you're 100 or 200 pounds overweight, that people aren't questioning whether your message is valid, even though your message may be completely valid. You've got your head stuck in the sand if you don't see it, because I mean it's biblical. Go look it up. If God's putting down gluttony and and you're standing, and I would, because I, spoke in church before, and I was standing there, and my obesity, morbid obesity, was evidence of my gluttony, and people had to question what I say. So I know this is a harsh message. It was hard for me to say it, but I say it to encourage you, because there is a way out. And if you want to book a free breakthrough session, do so. Go to my link. Go to rethinkdieting.com, watch that free masterclass, or go to Rethink Dieting on YouTube. You can watch my videos, and post any distinction that you got from me talking about this. I'd love to hear what your thoughts. And again, be encouraged. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a great evening.